Afghanistan who had done 2 tours and lost 6 friends while he was over there. And he asked me if it would be all right if he could stand with us as representation for Occupy Nova Scotia. And then I told him that it would be my honor, and he cried. He cried because he said that he understood what we were doing, and though he didn't agree with everything, he was happy to see that people were standing up for the rights that 6 of his friends had gone over to die for. Before I left here on Remembrance Day, I actually ran into the mayor, and I shook the mayor's hand, and I told him that Occupy Nova Scotia was really looking forward to working with the city, to working with the council and working with the police department to make sure that we had a smooth transition back to Grand Parade, and so that we could address later events. Now, he smiled at me, he shook my hand, he wished me a good day, and I left back up to Victoria Park with him knowing exactly what was going on. And I've come across some information through the Freedom of Information Act that says they knew that this was going on for almost a week ahead of time. They lied to us. They didn't tell us anything. And I'm also going to put in a little piece here for your council members because we can't blame it all on them. They were under the impression that we were all going to get tickets that day. All council members up there may have agreed to have us evicted, but not a single one of them agreed to what actually happened. And we have evidence of this that we received through the Freedom of Information Act. The council was under the impression that the police were going to come down and issue us bylaw infraction tickets and move up to larger citations, with arrests being the absolutely last chance, last thing to do. We obviously know that that didn't happen because I didn't get a ticket and I was also arrested that day. What happened between 6 p.m. on the 10th and 12 p.m. on Remembrance Day, I'm not sure. Maybe Peter Kelly or Chief Beasley or Superintendent Sean Hall could come down here one of these days and address the matter for us. But back to Remembrance Day. What we were doing there was an infraction of a bylaw. It's enforceable by a bylaw ticket. A punishable offense, $1,000 maximum or up to a year imprisonment if you cannot pay the fine. And what's really important for the citizens of Halifax to understand is that if you refuse to take down your structure, it is not up to the police, it is not up to bylaw enforcement to remove that structure. The bylaw clearly states that the person who committed the offense is responsible for removing that structure. And if they don't, then they get another ticket. But they didn't do that for us. For some reason, the city of Halifax, the mayor, and the police department felt that unlike all the other cities around the world who had to go through a court procedure and get an injunction to remove their Occupy encampments, felt that they could circumnavigate the law, that they were above the law. In fact, I even came across an email again through the Freedom of Information Act that one of the citizens of Halifax actually referred to our mayor as equivalent to the Prime Minister or a Premier. Now, I find that to be a little bit silly. The municipal government plays a very important role in democracy because it talks to the community. When you get into provincial and federal politics, the people start to get a little bit less loud. You start to be concerned less with individual people living in a community and more concerned about large groups and special interest groups, and you forget about regular, everyday citizens. And that's why that Occupy Nova Scotia was down here, was we wanted to address that municipal government on top of everything else that was going on, because we understand that change starts in your community first. And that's where we wanted to start, and that's where we're going to continue working from. So what happened on Remembrance Day was actually really just absolutely disgusting. It was a poor display of justice, it was a poor display of communication, and it was a really good example of how easily someone can smile to your face and then stab you in the back. Now, fortunately for me, my arrest wasn't particularly nasty. While I was sitting on the tent down there that day, I did see a 17-year-old young man get punched in the face just standing there. He wasn't yelling, he wasn't obstructing police, he was nowhere near them. And a police officer just struck out and punched him in the face. I saw another police officer grab a 17-year-old girl who suffered from mental illness by the hair and slam her into the ground. You can go home and YouTube that. She's got blue hair, you can't miss her. These are the sort of things that happen down there. And it's no wonder when you have police who are trained to be aggressors and to act proactively instead of waiting to see how things are going to turn out. The officers on duty that day were trained in Toronto by a special unit that is designed to be aggressive, to incite violence so that they can end any sort of demonstration and protest early. That information also available online. So the city of Halifax, who had always proclaimed to be working with Occupy, who wanted to hear what we had to say, work with us, was actually busy training police officers to come down and start violence with us so that they could turn it around on us. So I think that's just many good examples of how your current city is looking after its people. It's not. It's looking after its own self-interest. And it's time that changes. And that's what Occupy is coming back around for. That's where our energy is coming from, because we realize that the community needs to be informed about these things. That the community deserves to have a say in how their city is run. Because without the people of these communities, there is no city of Halifax. There is no Canada. There is nothing. We are the people, and ultimately, no matter what they say, no matter how many secret meetings they have, no matter how many officers, it belongs to us, each and every one of us. And it doesn't matter if you're from the Indigenous population, if you're from the African Canadian population, it doesn't matter if you're a woman or if you're a man, if you're Christian, Jew, or Muslim, none of that matters. You all live in the same community, and it's up to us as community members to make sure that our rights are observed and that the people who we elect to represent us are working for us. Thank you all for coming out. It's great to see you.